Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I wanted to talk about responsibility related OCD fears because, amongst all your guilt and shame related themes, this is a big component of it. Relationship OCD, harm OCD, um, even like schizophrenia, fear of losing control, POCD, of course. Amongst all those kind of things, I mean, responsibility plays a part. Even contamination and health OCD as well, to be honest, because the fear of keeping other people safe and healthy, along with yourself safe and healthy. I think that's something that gets somewhere in the mix. But because it's such a broad kind of topic to cover on its own, it's hard to go into specific nuances unless I am looking at responsibility related fears under a specific fear or theme or something. So, but I will try to cover some of the broader kind of strokes of responsibility related fears, and you can take what you can from it, and hopefully we can cover more specifics like in future videos or depending on what your feedback is on this video as well. I think the first point that I want to cover is directly just pure and simple fear of rejection, right? Of course, like if you don't behave responsibly or if you don't do the most responsible thing, then what is it that other people are going to think of you? And I think this fear of rejection is especially with responsibility, it's especially in the context of letting people down or not meeting their expectations. So in our minds, we feel like people have a certain, perhaps fixed perception of us that we are perhaps responsible people. We do things in a good way, or we do things sensibly, whatever it is that people may have set for us, and then we feel like we have to constantly meet that expectation and that standard of behaving responsibly all the time. We have to kind of like maintain a certain kind of image and impression that we have built over time. A lot of the time this is like a trap that you have probably created for your own self as well. I think in one of my previous videos where I was talking about boundaries, there's a certain overlap this has with people pleasing behaviors as well, because I think like because I was someone who used to always be helpful and I was trying to always be there for other people, do favors for them and stuff like that. It was a self-perpetuated trap and cycle I had created. It was a monster I created on my own, and then I felt like I had to keep living up to that expectation that people had come to expect of me. So it wasn't entirely people's fault that they expected certain things of me. It was also my own fault that I had created that perception as well. So then it was quite hard to break that perception and change that, and also then come across as someone who was not always available and not always the most responsible person, admitting as well a lot of the time that, oh, I don't know how to do this, or I did not do this well. That was also a huge exposure for me. For me, in fact, and I'll come to the exposure side of things as well. For me, it wasn't just about like confessing in the sense of like, oh my god, I didn't think I did something well. In fact, I would hide and conceal that, and I would bottle that up. So for me, it was the exposure was the opposite a little bit, in sometimes admitting that I don't know something, or I don't didn't do something well, or I didn't do as efficiently as I could have. Because admitting that felt like, oh my, I am kind of like breaking reality, not for myself, but also for other people. The second perspective to consider over here is, and this is for especially people who are given certain responsibilities in the workplace, right? If you're given a certain kind of role, if you're given a certain kind of position where there are certain responsibilities expected of you. Now, when you are selected for any kind of role, it is not done with the expectation that you are going to do things perfectly every single time. You're chosen for a role because your overall capability to do something well is there. Overall being the key operative word over here. Overall does not mean a 10 on 10 record of doing everything perfectly every single time. It means a larger overarching trend of doing things well enough. So, and this kind of like, it's hard to obviously take this on board immediately, because you will still think that, okay, maybe because you're put in a certain kind of maybe management role or leadership role, that you have to do things perfectly all the time. But like, you, number one, you don't, and you also won't be able to, because you will never be able to consider every single factor influencing a certain decision perfectly all the time, right? So making room for some gaps of understanding or error is extremely key over here, right? Um, Third thing I think I want to highlight over here, that kind of like goes into like the second point as well, is considering the perspective of collective responsibility as well. And this is not from a point of reassurance, but it's a point from realistically looking at how responsibility functions in the real world, right? So if we take the work example as well, and I'll try to take a more domestic example after this as well, is if you are in a whatever leadership position at work, and you have maybe, let's say, 10 people that are working under you. It's a cliched thing, but you will work just as well they work. So it's kind of a, both sides of the team kind of like feed into each other. If you work well, they will work well, and if they work well, you will also work well, because you cannot be a one-man band, and you certainly are not. A lot of people make this mistake, especially in the workplace, but people do this at home as well, where they will take all responsibilities. They'll be like, don't worry, I'll take care of it. Oh, just give it to me and I'll do it. Because there's also this habit that they build of just doing everything themselves, and then therefore people also rely on them all the time, that, oh, this person will take care of everything, so let them just carry that. And over time, the more you do it, that dynamic becomes quite set in place. So you also have to be able to delegate that. This video is kind of becoming a bit more about work, but like I'm just illustrating the example. But this happens at home as well, by the way. A lot of parents will say that, oh, I'm going to take care of this because no one else will do it as well. Or even if you, I don't know, maybe you'll if you're planning like a family trip or something, you will take on that responsibility that, oh, I'll do the bookings and I'll do everything, because you, not only do you like feel like you have to be the one to do that because people expect that of you, but there's also an element of mistrust as well that you sometimes have towards other people, and that can go into further fears of, like, let's say, fear of not being able to enjoy your trip that well, fear of fun not being curated as well enough or something. So the collective responsibility angle is really key over here, because it helps you delegate work, and it also helps you see that everything that is functioning is because of like several moving pieces, not just you. And you have to get off your like high horse and ego pedestal as well, because the world doesn't revolve around you, and I mean that in the most considered, polite way as well. So like if you take on, I don't know, any kind of like businessman, right? He can create a big business, and that can be, I don't know, earning lots of revenue or whatnot, but he cannot make that revenue unless he has good employees. And yes, essentially it will be probably his face that, will be everywhere and whatnot, but if he does not have a good team, then he can't responsibly run a successful business, right? And again, you can take that kind of principle in personal, professional, every social settings everywhere, right? So even with you, if you feel like, oh, but I mean, no, but I'm the mother or I'm the father, I have to be the one to take care. No, it's a working machine that works together, right? Even if you have like a 7-year-old kid, for example, yes, you are more responsible because you're probably the adult, but there's a certain amount of responsibility that falls on the child as well to be able to perhaps, let's say, follow rules of the house or do things that he or she at their age know is the more like sensible thing to do, right? So it's a collective effort of everything. So collective responsibility, I think it takes a while to see that through perspective, but also like changing your behaviors as well and letting go of control. The fourth point I want to touch on is when you're working on responsibility related fears, of course, consider what your worst case scenarios are. Of course, there's fear of rejection, the fear that something bad will happen and whatnot. But for the purpose of this video, I want to focus on some of them, which are like, maybe if you don't behave responsibly enough, then you might not be relied on as much, right, by loved ones or your workplace or your children or your siblings or whoever. You might not be thought of as the most efficient or productive person, and you might, in again personal or professional settings, you might be given like a secondary supporting role. And again, this goes into the collective responsibility element too. If you look at a film and some of your favorite movies, and I don't know, like whoever the main actor or actress is that you think like was that carried the film, they could not have been successful in their main role if they did not have a good supporting cast. I think like for me, because I was reading about this morning, the example that comes to mind is The Devil Wears Prada, because of course like Meryl Streep and Anne Hathaway were like the main people, technically the main cast who the story focused on the most. But when you look at people like Emily Blunt and Stanley Tucci in it, and even Anne Hathaway's boyfriend, I'm forgetting his name, the guy from Entourage, all of them do their roles so well. And I feel like if they didn't do their roles that well, I think the movie would have fallen apart. But there's a reason that the movie is that successful, and it's like a cult classic as well now at this point. I'm excited about the sequel as well. Anyway, this is not meant to be like a Devil Wears Prada advertisement, but it is a little bit right now. Anyway, so again, the being like in a secondary role, it's not as important as the primary role in whatever area of your life it is. But you don't always also have to be in the prime importance position as well. Like you can be the person who is the more supporting person in a situation, not the person taking care of things. Good exposures over here to do are perhaps saying no to tasks, or if someone is asking you for help or a favor or something, saying no to that, doing less, doing things purposefully less efficiently. When I was writing this point down, for some reason, the example that came to my mind was that if you're, let's say, a mother and you're making your kid their school lunch and you're making them a sandwich, the responsibility element can be so subtle in that way too when you're making lunch, because it's like, okay, I'm making him, like, I don't know, like a chicken sandwich or whatever, but I'm going to make sure the mayonnaise is like put across the bread, like along the edges properly, and it's not lacking. I'm going to make sure that the sauce is also like properly up till every edge, so that there's no part of the sandwich that is dry or tasteless. And so even that element of perfectionism can, seep into the responsibility thing, because it's like my child's lunch, when he has it in school, when he's taking a break and he wants to enjoy a nice meal, it needs to be this and this way. Like, so you can try and do it less efficiently. Don't put like all the condiments like up to the up till the corners, or don't put all the sauces up till the corners. Maybe add a little bit less of it. Do something less efficiently, purposefully. Cut corners and take shortcuts. The other exposure can also be, by the way, for people who tend to not take responsibility. So I think especially with people who have harm OCD or POCD, for instance, they will try and not have have an afternoon where all their nieces and nephews come to them because they would want to avoid that kind of responsibility. What if I lose them? What if under my care something bad happens? So I'm not even going to volunteer taking care of them. So avoiding responsibility becomes a big compulsion. So the exposure is to take up responsibility, because the previous examples I was giving were of people who are, who tend to take more responsibility and who are more keen to do that while having the fear of not behaving responsibly. But there can be the other extreme end of things as well, to not take up any responsibility, so you're never put in a position where you have to be answerable to anyone. I was a mix of both. I was very keen to do things, but in some situations, I also wanted to just walk away from taking any responsibility because I didn't want to be the one answerable. It's like, oh, it's better if someone else is answerable, and I don't want to be put in that position. But it was a good exposure for me to do that, and in fact, like, it helped me really be more forthcoming about, volunteering for doing things. That, hey, I'll do it. Try doing that yourself as well. Compulsions, of course, it's something that with any fear, you have to keep in mind. With responsibility, there's going to be a lot of checking, a lot of reassurance seeking, a lot of confessing that, hey, I did this and I did that, and there's a lot of over explanation that goes into that. Which leads me to my second point as well. Uncertainty is going to be a big element that you really have to accept, and it's a big component you will have to work on over and over again, because especially when it comes to themes like harm OCD, for instance, there's that huge thing of like, okay, if I need to take the responsibility for maybe doing XYZ things, so I need to go confess to someone, I need to go hand myself in to the police, maybe I need to report myself. All those kind of things will come into play. Or if it's any emotional harm or something related to a past relationship, you want to call them up and you want to check in with them, and you want to be like, hey, is everything okay? Like, I just want to make sure when this happened or that happened, what do you think about it? How do you feel about it? Etc. Etc. Right? And chances are you're someone who has, if you suffer with responsibility related fears, chances are you have at this point multiple times checked that fear, many times. You have asked people, you have checked online, you have done your Googling, your research, you have asked people's opinions, you may have even looked at the law, you may have done all of that, and still there is no relief on that. So then what's left behind is the element of uncertainty, right? For me, I think I was someone who used to over explain myself quite a lot. I would especially over explain my intentions to people quite a lot, because one of my big fears was being misperceived and misunderstood. Any of my actions or any of my words being misperceived and misunderstood. And when I look back on, my old sometimes text messages or things that I had sent to people, I can see how much I was just explaining that, oh, by the way, by this, I meant this. Or when I did this, this is what I was thinking. Because I just wanted to make sure that nobody got the wrong impression of what I was saying or doing. And also so that nobody later on realized that, oh, maybe Momin did something bad or did something hurtful, so now I have to confront Momin, or now I have to talk to them. So to avoid that situation as well. So over here, like, and this will have to be done over and over again, but for me, I think when it comes to the uncertainty of whether, let's say, I said something hurtful or did something to upset someone, or emotionally harm someone, or even if in a contamination sense, let's say if I harmed them in some way and I'm responsible for it, I'll wait for them to come to me and confront me about it, and then I can maybe take responsibility for it. I don't have to go on like a tour to announce my possible potential responsibility to people that, hey, I may have done this, or I may have caused XYZ thing. I don't need to do that. Again, you can try and do that, and you probably have already done that, but is it giving you any relief? Probably not. Are you still feeling guilty? Probably yes. Otherwise, you wouldn't be suffering with OCD. So, for me, that's how I go about it. If there's something I've done bad in the past, if there's something has happened, I can continue to live my life right now as I want to, with that uncertainty. And if someone comes after me one day, or even writes something about me online, or I don't know, like calls me up and says, "Hey, Momin, I want to talk to you about something that happened 2 years ago," I'm ready to deal with it in that moment. I'm not, it will be uncomfortable and it will not feel great that someone has maybe sat with something for 2 years and didn't come to me with it. And I would also, I mean, I'm okay to take that responsibility. I'm okay to apologize to them when and if they confront me about it. But I don't need to go and make sure that no one is holding any grudges against me. The thought of people holding a grudge against me, not talking to me about it, does not feel great. But also, that's again, the collective responsibility comes over here as well. That's also on them as well. And I also have to respect people's choice as well, that maybe they don't want to talk about something, so I can let them sit with that grudge against me if they want to. And if they didn't come to me for 2 years, that's also on them, that maybe they just didn't want to talk about it, maybe they weren't ready to talk about it, maybe it was too uncomfortable for them, maybe at first they thought I'll just let it go, but they weren't able to let it go, and it took them 2 years to realize that maybe, talking to me would be their way of getting over it. I don't know, right? So it's a it's a it moves both ways. The responsibility thing moves both ways in that way. So um those are some perspectives I would perhaps, like, push you to consider. I would encourage you to consider. That's kind of like how I live with responsibility related fears, in that way. And how I came to like accept them more. But again, these are, all of these things are very specific to different situations as well. I understand that, because someone may be watching with harm OCD and thinking, yeah, but in my case, like, but this is different. How can I really apply that to here? Someone with contamination may be thinking that. Someone with like, in fact, like health or contamination related responsibility might be thinking, no, but like I will cause someone death, and that's a huge thing. So again, there's so many different ways to look at it with. And but I can't cover that unless I don't, because that, then it would be like a 2 hour video if I go into responsibility with every single theme. But I can try and cover that in future videos, with a bit more nuance. But I hope you were able to take some principles from this and apply it to your fears and themes, and let me know what you think. Guys, if you want any help with one-to-one coaching, you can always message us on our WhatsApp number. The link is in the description below, and it's everywhere on our socials, in our link tree. Like, it's everywhere. Anyway, we have our WhatsApp number on, again, we have it on our Instagram, we have it on our banners, we have it everywhere. So you'll easily find it. You also have a WhatsApp chat button, on our website, ocdrecovery.com. If you go there, there's a button, you can click it, and it will take you directly to our WhatsApp chat. If you do not have WhatsApp, which I feel like everyone does these days, but if you don't have that, you can email us at phil@ocdrecovery.com, which is PHIL, not FILL. Phil@ocdrecovery.com. And yeah, guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this long half an hour rant. And I'll see you soon for another video. Bye.